Hi, I wanted to share something that happened to me many years ago, something I've never really forgotten. I'm from Ecuador, and when I was in high school, my family and I lived in a small apartment building. There were only 4 apartments, and everyone kind of knew each other. One night, a girl from the last apartment, who lived with her father, knocked on our door. She had run away because her father had gotten violent during an argument. My parents let her stay the night. That evening, while my dad was asleep, she sat with my mom and sister in the living room. They were trying to comfort her. But then, she said something that made the air grow cold. She told them that a few nights earlier, she had seen someone, or something, in the neighboring apartment. A man, she called it. But this man was completely black, like a shadow made of darkness itself. No face, no features, just a solid black shape standing still, watching. We tried to brush it off as stress or imagination, but deep down, something didn't feel right. A few nights later, my twin brother and I were in bed. We shared a room, even the same bed, and we were lying back to back. I started breathing loudly to annoy him, just a dumb habit, but he quickly hit me with his elbow and said, "Stop it, let me sleep." I smirked, pretending innocence, but then we both heard it, heavy breathing. It wasn't mine, and it definitely wasn't his. He hit me again, harder this time. "I said stop it," but I whispered back, "It's not me." And then we froze. The breathing didn't stop. It was slow, deep, and right behind us. As if someone was standing next to our bed, leaning down over us, in the darkness. We didn't move. We didn't speak. The only thing we could do was pull the blankets over our heads and call out for our mom. She rushed in, turned on the lights, but of course, no one was there. We told her everything, and even though she tried to calm us down, I could see it in her face. She believed us, because maybe, just maybe, the thing the girl saw that night was real. This happened about 11 or 12 years ago. I was a college student working as a cook at a bar and restaurant, so I was probably between 20 and 22 years old. Typically, once we closed for the night, my coworker and I would hang out and talk for a while at the kitchen entrance of the building. One night, I was driving back to my parents' house, where I was living while in school. I remember it was slightly chilly and somewhat foggy. It's usually about a 15-minute drive. It was after 3 a.m., and it had been a long shift, so about 3 to 5 coworkers and I hung out for a while after work before heading out. I was in the last 3 minutes of my drive. I had to turn right, go over a bridge, and my street was the second one down. When I was about halfway across the bridge, I saw something in the distance. I couldn't make it out just yet, but I figured it was some sort of animal crossing the road. Once I got over the bridge, my eyes couldn't look away from what I was seeing. It was a deer crossing the road, but only the upper half of its body was there, dragging itself across the pavement with no lower half at all. Deer are pretty common in my area, and where I lived, there were still some wooded areas left after new houses were built. This was a main road, and semi-trucks do occasionally pass through, though it's a bit out of the way from the nearest highway exits. The deer had been cut clean in half, its lower half was gone, and it dragged itself off the road before it eventually met its end. I moved too quickly to possibly hit it and put it out of its misery, and honestly, the deer was very big. I'm 6'3" and about 250 pounds at the time, and it was still a large animal. The next day, I went on a run before getting ready for work. I wanted to check the area near the bridge to see if the deer had made it to the field nearby. But when I got there was nothing. No blood on the road, no other half, not even a trace of the deer. This isn't necessarily a scary horror story, but it was one of the most graphic and unsettling things I've ever come across. Whenever someone brings up creepy or disturbing experiences, this is always the story I tell. This happened in the middle of November 2023. I was 17. It was just after a snowstorm. The streets were silent, covered in fresh snow, and the sky hung low with gray clouds. Me, Julian, Dylan, Logan, Josiah, Bobby, carrying a literal axe like it was Skyrim, and Carlos, we were just out walking around town, doing dumb shit, like usual. We had just been at school and got chased off by security. Hearts still racing, we stumbled onto a snow-covered trail that none of us had ever really noticed before. No footprints, no tire tracks, just an untouched path leading toward the ocean, lined with tall, bare trees. It felt like something out of a movie, so we followed it. At the end of the trail, tucked away in the woods, was this old shed. It looked abandoned as hell. Half the paint was chipped off, the windows fogged with condensation. The wood all weathered and gray. The whole area was dead silent. No birds, no wind, nothing, just us. Julian and I were the first ones to walk up to it. There wasn't any weird smell. No dead animal stench or anything. Just cold, still air. We tried the door, but it was frozen shut. It didn't budge. That's when Dylan, Josiah, and Logan caught up with us. They were hanging back at first, just taking a break, but eventually we all circled the shed. There was a window on the right side, kind of high up. Dylan managed to slide it open and crawled in first. Logan followed him. Josiah was getting ready to go in next. That's when we saw it. Something, or someone, peeked at us from behind the shed. It was a human-like shape, but there was white fur, or maybe pale skin, around its head. Doberman-style ears, big, dark-rimmed, human-like eyes that didn't look right. They didn't reflect light like animal eyes usually do. They just watched. Julian froze, then he blurted,
"Shit! A dog! A dog! A dog!"
I saw it too, but it wasn't a dog. It had the wrong shape. Too tall, too upright, too aware. Josiah didn't wait. He turned and sprinted like his soul left his body. Logan hadn't seen it yet, but seeing our reaction was enough. He jumped out the window, landed on his stomach with a thud, and I'll never forget the words he shouted as he hit the ground.
"Dude, that ain't no dog!"
Then he was gone, took off straight into the trees. Dylan was halfway out the window at that point, struggling, legs flailing. He looked out, caught a glimpse, and just yelled,
"What the hell?"
He gave up trying to squeeze out, turned back inside, and kicked the door down from the inside. The door flew open and he ran like his life depended on it. Probably because it did. Me and Julian ran too, but we were laughing. That's how we deal with scary stuff. We laugh. But then Julian slipped on a patch of ice and face-planted into the snow. He laughed for a second, but when he looked back at the shed, his face changed, stone-cold serious. He got up and bolted past me, Carlos, and Bobby, who were standing near the trail entrance. We regrouped and took the trail back to the bridge. There was a tunnel under where we sometimes hung out. We were catching our breath, trying to figure out what had just happened. Julian couldn't even talk. He was pale and shaking. Logan tried to explain everything to Bobby, Carlos, and Josiah, who hadn't seen it clearly. Dylan had seen it too, but he barely said a word. He was still trying to make sense of it. 1 year later, in the summer of 2024, a few of us, me, Julian, Bobby, and Carlos, decided to go back. We found the shed again, but it was different. Bigger, renovated, new wood panels, no condensation, fresh paint. The old creepy energy was gone, replaced by something colder, emptier, but deeper. We didn't stick around long. I'm 19 now. Time moves on. Life keeps going. But that night still sticks with us. Julian doesn't talk about it much. Dylan never did. Logan makes jokes about it, but he remembers too. We all do. And the one thing that still plays in my head when I think back to that moment, the image of that thing peeking out and Logan's voice echoing in my mind.
"Dude, that ain't no dog!"